Hello and welcome to today's session. So, we will continue looking at this play, You Can't Take It With You, and we are looking at scene 2. And this is also the scene where we find we are a bit away from the insanity of this Vanderhoff family, from the eccentricities of the Vanderhoff family, though they are always there in the background. So, this is the scene which introduces us to the kind of relationship that Tony and Alice share, and also the scene tries to tell us how different they are and how very acutely aware Alice is of this difference. So late the same night, the house is in darkness save for a light in the hall. An accordion is heard off stage, and suddenly a good loud bang from the cellar. Somewhere in the nether regions, one of the sycamores is still at work. As the accordion player finishes the song, the sound of a key and the outer door, the voices of Alice and Tony drift through. We find that this is a house which literally never sleeps. Somebody or the other is always at work, either manufacturing firecrackers or playing the xylophone or practicing ballet. And we also find that there's absolutely no order, no routine, no sense of time. Yeah, they just keep floating in and out of these different activities, and except for the meal times, nothing seems to be set. So Alice and Tony, they did spend the evening together, and we get an insight into the kind of relationship that they share. So they do have, we find that Tony comes across as like more of romantic, the kind of things that he professes. Yeah, like for instance, right at the beginning. We sort of see how different they are in the way they articulate their emotions. And Alice, having been a part of the Sycamore family, there's a certain practical element also to it. In spite of the eccentricities, we find that there's a certain kind of practicality which takes dominance over the romantic approach that Tony has. Alice, I'll see what's in the ice box. Want to come along? I'd follow you to the ends of the earth. Alice, oh, just the kitchen is enough. Yeah. So this, in some form, sums up the kind of worlds from which they come. In spite of the snakes in the family and the ballet dancing and the xylophones and the firecrackers in the cellar, we find that there's a rootedness that we notice about Alice. Yeah, because when she's in touch with the real world, she is also able to situate her family in that spectrum, in that socioeconomic spectrum. So they do seem to have, they seem to share a very good wavelength. And Tony, again, makes a very romantic statement. I wouldn't trade 1 minute of this evening for all the rice in China. Really? Cross my heart. Is there much rice in China? Yeah. And she asks these pointed but very practical questions. Terrific. Didn't you read The Good Earth? Yeah, she laughs. And there is a slight difference that you can notice from scene 1 and scene 2 with respect to the plays which are being referred to. Yeah, the first one, it's about Trotsky and Russian Revolution, and here it is about the historical fiction Perlis Buck's The Good Earth. Yeah, so yeah, they're also making some plans for the vacation where time and again Tony is making it clear that he would want to spend not just a vacation but all seasons. He would want to share all seasons throughout the year with Alice. So, and in between, we encounter Penny briefly, where she's come looking for a manuscript, and we find that things don't really end in that home. They're all the time working, they're all the time playing, they're all the time engaging with the things which gives them a lot of pleasure. That also makes it easier for them to navigate through the crisis in many ways. So when Tony wonders whether these things are happening, there's also this um, the noise which keeps coming from the cellar. When Tony wonders whether it's all right at this time of the night, Alice, any time of night, any time of day. Yeah, so that's what which describes her family, and she very soon. And in very direct terms, she also tells Tony, no, wait, Tony, I want to make it clear to you. Listen, you're in a different world, a whole different kind of people. I don't mean money or socially, that's too silly. But your family and mine, it just wouldn't work, Tony, it just wouldn't work. Yeah. There is, of course, a certain social standing, a certain economic standing. And apart from that, which Penny is entirely aware of, but she is also, trying to convey that it's a bit much more than that. The way people look at life. It's not just about having less money or having less social standing. It's of course silly too, but more than that, it's about the way one, well, the way one negotiates through the world, about these how these families respond to the different aspects of the world. So this difference is, suddenly, we find that it gets uh, foregrounded in this discussion, which we will quickly read through. Um, I don't mind that anyhow. You're not going to live with your family. It's just you and I. No, it isn't. It's never quite that. I love them, Tony. I love them deeply. Some people could break away, but I couldn't. I know they do rather strange things, but they can. They're fun, and I don't know. There's a kind of nobility about them. Yeah, it's a very interesting word to use in this context. Here, when we look at this and also, map this against the pursuit of American dream, we begin to see that in some instances, the ones who have been seen as failures, yeah, they are also, sometimes choosing to be failures because they are pursuing things in a slightly different way, in a nobler way. And here, while this play is not entirely celebrating the way of life, the outlook, and the worldview that the Sycamore family seems to have adopted, it's clearly making a statement about the possibility of alternate worldviews and the need to accommodate them if that is more individualistic, if that is more fulfilling for a certain person or for a certain individual. And this family as a whole, we find that they are complete misfits in New York. They are complete misfits in the American economy. Yeah, they are almost, very radically and flippantly challenging what the American dream is all about. But there is also another possibility that it is perhaps the American society that enables them to live like this as well, to pursue their eccentric dreams without it affecting them, them in a on a daily basis. Yeah, as we continue to read through is, Alice, you talk as only you could understand them. That's not true. Why every family has got curious little traits. What of it? My father raises orchids at $10,000 a bulb. So here is where, we also find there are certain other kinds of eccentricities. Yeah, here, we may also very briefly recall the British, writer Virginia Woolf, who has this short story, Solid Objects. There she talks about, that's in the context of Britain, the political context. There, the short story talks about two characters, yeah, who have the potential in them to make it really big in politics, in British politics. They are, running for parliament, and one of them has a chance to make it really big in that context. But this one person, one of the two friends, he decides to just give it all away all of a sudden, quite randomly, and he goes after solid objects. That becomes his hobby. He picks up these random objects, yeah, sometimes, stones, little broken pieces. He goes after them. He becomes obsessively concerned with those solid objects which otherwise do not have any value. He begins to collect them day in and day night, and he loses his sanity according to the rest of the world. And even his friend, who was otherwise a very loyal ally till the end, is forced to leave him because they begin to inhabit two different worldviews altogether. Yeah, one person who has given up political career because he suddenly realized how worthless it is, and there's no dramatic incident which brought about that change. He suddenly decides to go after solid objects which are also useless and worthless. Yeah, so there Woolf was trying to comment on certain kinds of pursuits which are considered as useless because they do not seem to be having any legitimizing value about it. Yeah, because there, a historian, someone who goes after artifacts, will be valued more because there is a certain system, there is a knowledge system, a scholarship around it. But if that sort of a legitimizing cover is not present, none of these pursuits could be valued. None of these pursuits could be honored. On the other hand, it could be seen as markers of insanity. That is what is happening over here. The Kirby family, there, Tony says his father raises orchids at $10,000 a bulb. That is not seen as an eccentricity. Yeah, it is in a certain sense, but that does not question his sanity. It is not like, grandpa having snakes at home. It is not because, grandpa does not do anything else other than attending commencement ceremonies or, running this family and heading the meal time. Yeah. So it ultimately boils down to whether the pursuit, the whatever you're pursuing, is giving you something in return. Yeah. So that seems to be the fine difference over here when if we continue to read through this, my father raises orchids at $10,000 a bulb. Is that sensible? My mother believes in spiritualism. Just as bad. That's just as bad as your mother writing plays, isn't it? It goes deeper, Tony. Your mother believes in spiritualism because it's fashionable. Yeah, it's still an in thing. It is odd. It could be seen as eccentric, but there is something. It's in vogue. Yeah, it's something very fashionable to do. It accentuates your position in the society. It does not threaten or damage what you are. It acts as it's more like an accessory. Yeah. So, and your father raises orchids because he can afford to. Yeah. So there's a fine difference between who is allowed, for whom it's legitimately all right to pursue certain meaningless passions, quote unquote, meaningless passions. Yeah, when one can afford to, when one is always already placed within a certain socio-political uh, segment. Yeah, he can afford to do what he wants to with his life because there is a security, there is a financial and social security about him, about his family, about what he is doing. And once that right has not been earned in legitimate ways, because if you look at Van der Hoff, we get to know that he is someone who quit his business, um, just like that, just like the characters in Virginia Woolf's Solid Objects. Yeah, he had quit his business and he just collects snakes and goes to circuses and commencements. He has not earned the right to while away his time like that, which is where here Mr. Kirby raising orchids is not seen as something eccentric and something insane, but on the other hand, whatever Mr. Van der Hoff is doing is seen as eccentric and insane. So it's a very telling commentary, it's a very telling critique about the socio-political system, about the economic order, which legitimizes certain kinds of activities and delegitimizes and even, forces to see certain activities as completely insane. And this, the play makes it easier to deal with this question because it's also placed as a comedy, as a situational farce. So now when Alice is responding, it goes deeper, Tony. Your mother believes in spiritualism because it's fashionable, and your father raises orchids because he can afford to. My mother writes plays because 8 years ago a typewriter was delivered here by mistake. And Tony seems to be the idealist, just the way he was introduced as. He is one of those rare characters who's not taking offense, who's not even surprised. Alice, and look at Grandpa. 35 years ago, he just quit business one day. He started up to his office in the elevator and came down right again. He just stopped. He could have been a rich man, but he said it took too much time. So for 35 years, he's just collected snakes and gone to circuses and commencements. It never occurs to any of them. And the important thing is, neither Van der Hoff or anyone in his family, they don't seem to be having any regrets about what they could have done. And there does not seem to have occurred any dramatic incident which forced Grandpa to quit his business. He just decided to quit because it was taking up too much of time and you can't do it all at the end of the day. And it's a very profound, a very deep spiritual philosophical realization that this family has arrived at, but it fails to fit into the formats, the usual acceptable formats of the ways of living. Um, so and at the same, all of this is happening in Van der Hoff's family, and we also, very briefly they encounter Grandpa, and right after that, Donald, who Donald is, he comes to visit um, Reba, who's the colored maid who was introduced in scene one. So yeah, we get a sense of the kind of professional relationship they have to. I'm the vice president, I can dictate to you all day. Yeah? So she is perhaps something like an assistant to in this Kirby and company. And Alice, in spite of this her upbringing, in spite of having come from such an eccentric family, she seems to be very concerned about what people will say. And Tony, on the other hand, does not seem to be worrying about that at all, and he seems to be entirely okay with them being seen publicly together. This combination of these two families coming together, these two individuals, who are quite different in their social standing, in their worldviews. They're coming together. It seems to be this perfect kind of romance. And through this, yeah, what this play is trying to over and again suggest is that there is a world order, a socio-political order, an economic order within which families, individuals are stuck, but there are also options. Yeah, to work to navigate your one's way through this. By giving a comic interface to this, he makes this critique more palatable and more poignant. And as the play progresses, we realize that it's not just about the eccentricities, it's about the deeper things which the play is trying to foreground. It's about the deeper things which are being questioned over here. So, with this, we will quickly come to the end of the discussion of scene 2. And we will soon look at some of the historical contexts which are important in order to situate this play as a critique of its times, a critique of the world order within which the play is located. At the same time, the play is trying to go against the grain of that order as well. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session.